Hello everyone. So this is the question where we stopped in the previous class. Let us start with this question and discuss PYQs related to English literature. So Jonathan Bates' work The School of the Earth was published in which year? 2001, 1991, 2000 and 1999. So the right answer is C. It is in 2000 that this work was published. So, Jonathan Bates' work, The Song of the Earth, was published in 2000 and it is based upon our growing alienation from nature, how we are drifting apart from nature. He traces the distinctions among nature, culture, and environment and shows how their appearance was in the literature of the 18th century. How in the 18th century people were so much engrossed in literature they were in with nature, and how now you see a drift between the two. So C is the right answer. Again, an important question: who among the following is not a Yale critic? Who among the following is not a Yale critic? Jeffrey Hartman, Paul Deman, J.S. Mill, and Roland Barthes. Which of the following is not a Yale critic? So, who were Yale critics? So, Yale critic basically is a group that is referring to, or you can say it was like a movement where the people who were associated with this group started reading the works of Jacques Derrida and then used his works to do other experiments. So, Yale critic is a shorthand way of referring to a movement that happened in 1970 when the work of Jacques Derrida was taken up, experimented by four very important literary critics, four prominent literary critics in the Department of English at Yale University: Paul Deman, J. Hills Miller, Jeffrey Hartman, Harold Bloom. While Roland Barthes is a French literary theorist, and he is known for his movements or his association with structuralism and post-structuralism. He was not associated with Yale critics. So Yale critics basically are the ones who read the works of Jacques Derrida. Roland Barthes, on the other hand, is associated with structuralism and post-structuralism. He is what? He is a semiotician. Roland Barthes is a semiotician and he is a philosopher, critic. He is engaged with studying the sign variety or the sign system. The sign system. Roland Barthes has written important works. He has written works like Writing Degree 0, 1953, then Methodologies, 1957, The Death of the Author, 1967. These are the essay. He is very popular for this work, The Death of the Author, though. Try to read his works. And there are other works also that he has written. For example, there's another work, SZ. In 1970, this work came out. This work also made him very famous. Some of his literary terms like readerly text, writerly text are also important. Have a look on those things also. Who among the following is not a member of Frankfurt School? Now, who among the following is not associated with Frankfurt School of Critical Theory? Is it Louis Althusser, Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, or Herbert Marcuse? So, Frankfurt School basically developed in critical theory. They developed in critical theory, and it is a school of thought which talked about sociology. So they talked about sociology, philosophy. They were emerging in the 1920s and 1930s at the Institute of Social Research in Frankfurt, that is there in Germany. So what exactly are these members doing? So these members were talking about, or they were critiques. they were critiques of modern capitalism. Modern capitalism. And they also were looking at the effects of society, culture, as well as individual consciousness. They also were trying to look at the structures and the domain, how power dynamics is so much engrossed with the culture that we live in. So, school basically emerged as a critique towards the traditional philosophy of Marxism. सो मार्क्सिज्म की फ़िलासफ़ी का ये क्रिटिक करते हैं. Marxism was basically a philosophy that was talking about capitalism, and here this theory will critique how persistent capitalism will do what? This capitalism will do, it will make the society completely hollow. So they were critiquing Karl Marx, and to some extent they were also critiquing Sigmund Freud. These are the two people who were two theorists that were critiqued. Frankfurt School particularly include members like Theodor Adorno, Horkheimer, and they focused on how socio-economic cultures are very much engrossed, and what is the role of the culture and how power dynamics can operate. So how power is maintained in culture, this is what they were looking. They critique few very important things. So they critique the rise of mass media, because this mass media is making everyone follow the same culture, that is homogenization of culture. What is happening? Everyone is following the same thing. For example, say this is a bag and everyone is following this, everyone is carrying nowadays this boho bag. I carry this bag. Looking at this bag, my friends also started using the same brand, the same bag. Now, what is it? We are not using our own rational minds. Maybe for my stuff, this bag is sufficient, but for my sister, this is not. But still, just because she thinks that it is cool and sassy to carry it, she starts using it. So this is what? This is capitalism. We are all making ourselves as, stupid entities, and we are recklessly following the same thing. This is called as homogenization of culture. We call it as homogenization of culture. This philosophy or this critical theory relies a lot on the works of Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud, and they try to look at how these structures, these social economic structures, are maintaining power dynamic in the society. Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, Herbert Marcuse, as well as Habermas are few very important figures associated with this school. They were examining power, so they were examining the role of power as well as ideology. These are the two things that they were focusing on. So this means A would be the right answer. So Althusser is not a member of Frankfurt School. Instead, he was a French philosopher who belonged to the Western Marxist philosophy, structural Marxist the, and he's very different from what the Frankfurt School was talking about. The Frankfurt School was a group of scholars who were developing critical theory, and they were popularizing the dialectical method of learning by interrogating the contradictions that we find in the society. We have Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, Herbert Marcuse, who belong to Frankfurt School. So A is the right answer. Which of the following method is the oldest for teaching English language? The bilingual method, the grammar translation method, the direct method, or the situation method? Which of the following is the correct method for teaching English language? So methods for teaching English. So there are several methods to teach English, and all of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. But the most important as well as the oldest one is B, that is grammar translation method. The oldest method is the grammar translation method, which is also called as the classical method. The method has two main goals: to enable the students read and translate literature written in the source language. The most relevant principles of this method are that it emphasizes on the grammatical explanation, also translation of the language pattern. In this method, the rule is often memorized and subsequently cited to explain a similar situation. Mother tongue becomes the medium of instruction when it comes to grammar translation method. So in the grammar translation method, the emphasis is there on the rules as well as on the vocabulary. Often there is a translation, you will see a translation between the target language and the native language. So what is the native language? The native language is your L1 and L2 is your target language, what you are trying to learn and what you have acquired from your parents, from your immediate surroundings. That is your native language. This is grammar translation method. So there is the use of your native language to understand your target language. Direct method is very different from this method though. The immersion in the direct language with little or no use of the mother tongue, that is opposite to this. In this method, in grammar translation method, you still use the target language, the native language together. That means you use your mother tongue. But when it comes to your direct method, आप directly English सिखाते हो, right? So this method, you have only the target language that is being used. The target language is used, little or no use of mother tongue is there. You promote fluency here, fluency and natural acquisition through direct communication. Then we also have this method called as audio-lingual method. Audio-lingual method, it focuses on oral language. It has the focus on oral language, and here drills are used to make the student understand. There is repetitive use so that the development of pronunciation and automatically the child starts using the target language. Then you also have CLT, that is communicative language teaching. It prioritizes communication. What is the importance? And prioritization is given to communication as well as real world language. How you use English in real world. Okay, this is CLT. You also have task based language where you have real life situations, and that becomes more important. Okay, so the most important and the oldest one is the grammar translation method, where you use both your mother tongue as well as your target language. In the area of theory and research known as second language acquisition, SLA, the classroom is considered an ideal model for research, a site of no use, a site that always produces language learning blockage, and an experimental laboratory. So D is the right answer. In the area of theory and research, SLA, second language acquisition, the classroom is considered as a laboratory, an experimental laboratory. It helps the student how to be more observant, inquisitive with the help of experiments. They learn how to ask questions and find new ways how they can answer the questions and solve problems. So basically, we all know it is Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky, who talked about language acquisition devices, LAD. So he said that when we are young, say this is a boy, when we are young, in our brain we have LAD, language acquisition devices. When we meet with or we come in direct contact with our surroundings, we learn our mother tongue, that is L1. This is called as what? This is called as acquisition. When you gradually, with not compulsive rules, regulations, with just an interaction with the other person, you tend to learn your mother tongue. That is what? Mother tongue, that is your L1. But second language acquisition means that the second language, L2, is the language that you learn and then you acquire. So you need to follow certain rules and regulations. You need to learn grammatical rules. You need to learn subject, verb, object. The sentence is made up of subject as well as predicate, how sentences are formed, what are the parts of speech, to make it easy for you to remember. Okay, this is how you experiment things. So classroom becomes a field where you learn all of these things. Who is the chairman of the University Education Commission in 1948? Babu Rajendra Prasad, D.S. Kothari, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, or S. Radhakrishnan? So D is the right answer. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was the chairman of the University Education Commission of 1948. The commission made a number of significant recommendations on various aspects of higher education, and the report was submitted in 1949. Thus, the option D becomes the right answer. Okay, the great object of English government ought to be the promotion of European literature and science among the natives of India. All funds appropriated for the purpose of education would be best employed on English education alone. Who made the following comment? Is it Lord Macaulay, Sir Charles Wood, Lord William Bentinck, or Arthur Mayhew? So C is the right answer. The comment was made by Lord William Bentinck. The comment is a part of what? The comment is a part of Macaulay's Minute for Education in India. Lord Macaulay came to India in June 10 in 1834 as the lawful member of the Governor General Executive Council, who was appointed as the president of the committee. But these words are uttered by Lord William Bentinck, who was the governor at that time, and he was responsible for the education system. So do not get confused. These words, yes, are related to Macaulay's Minute, but who said this is Bentinck, right? Now, who was Macaulay? If you do not know, Macaulay wrote a very important document that is called as Macaulay's Minute for Education in India. He said that there should be downward filtration theory. What is this downward filtration theory? He said that I will educate the, say suppose these are the English people. So he said, I will educate these upper few people here, so that the effect will trickle down to the bottom. Okay, and we need these people, these few Indians are needed so that we can basically exert control on the downtrodden as well. So he chose some Bengali babus to get educated so that they ultimately can do the task of delegating the powers, or delegating the orders from higher authority to the masses. Okay, so he said that if we educate the hand few, the effect will trickle down. This is called as downward filtration theory. Macaulay's Minute also said that we as Indians, because we are barbarians, we are uncivilized according to him, we need to study English and we need to study maths and science because our texts were lusty and promiscuous, etc. He said that Abhijana Shakuntalam is the work written by Kalidas, is a work that was not at all fit for an Indian student or for a student to study because it is lusty in nature. He also said that one shelf of British books is equivalent to the entire libraries that these Indians have. We are barbarians, we are uncivilized, and we need English to go forward. This is what Macaulay was saying. He said that we can be kept as Indians from our blood, but from our appearance, from our thinking, we need to become English, right? So Macaulay's Minute is a document where he's urging all the officials to start teaching English to these people. So in India, when the Britishers came, as missionaries, they got English. And then the schools and colleges were gradually being set up. But it is Macaulay's Minute that actually pushed the philosophy way forward. So it is an important document. Brajbi Kachru, in his work, Three Circles of English. So this is basically a philosophy, Three Circles of English. He observes that English-speaking countries are separated into three groups. Choose the correct option. What are these three groups? So here C is the right answer. He talked about three cultures or three circles: inner, outer, and expanding, right? So Kachru said that there are three circles of English observations, that English speaking countries are separated in three groups. the inner, the outer, and the expanding circle. These circles represent the patterns of acquisition, how we learn English and how we use English, and how English is used across cultures and languages. The inner circle represent the native English speaker. These are the people who have English as their native language. Okay, from USA, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The outer circle represent countries which are colonized by the British and by the Britain, and English language has a fair share of speakers here. So in offices, official work is carried down when English is spoken. So India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Kenya, Sri Lanka, Singapore, etc. are those countries where for official purpose, so as official language, we use English. English is seen as an associate official language, isn't it, in our country? Then we have the outermost circle, or you can call it as the expanding circle. Here we have the countries that only use language to work. Okay, so it is only for foreign communication or for business purpose that they use this language. So here they only use this English language for their business. So we have the native speakers as official language users and only for business. We have China, Japan, Nepal, Korea, etc., where English is used only for corporate relations or for business purposes. Which of the following is true in the context of new criticism? So new criticism says what? It follows the tradition of historical criticism. The main law of new criticism is that it should be subjective and analysis. The subjective procedure of a new critic is explication, and the distinction between literary genre does play an essential role in new criticism. So new critics said that the piece of paper that you have and whatever is written on this makes it as a text. Do not put biographical details or your own way of interpretation, or just do not look at historical details, but only look at the text just the way as it is. So what is true? C point is true. C is true. C is true for new criticism. New criticism insisted on the intrinsic value of the work of art. It focused the attention on the individual work alone. And it is independent in its own meaning. It is independent. It is an independent unit. It is a style of criticism that emphasizes on close reading. Now, close reading basically came from I.A. Richards, where he talked about practical criticism, and he talked about this philosophy of close reading. Just as I told you, this text that you have, do not use historical details, do not use biographical details. Just look at the text and read it. Okay, this text is sufficient on its own. It is a self-contained piece of art, a work capable of producing independent meaning without accompanying it with any philosophical, historical, or biographical detail that was surrounding the text. Okay, so the distinctive procedure for a new critic is explication. C is the right answer. The pamphlet The Power of Love 1643, proclaiming the importance of brotherhood as a means of achieving radical change in social relationship, was written by George Sainsbury, William Wallen, F.R. Lewis, or Gerald Winstanley. So D is the right answer. This is a work written by William Wallen. This work came out in 1643. It talks about the radical change in social relationships, and it appeared in London 1643. An essay on the principle of human action was written by Charles Lamb, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, William Godwin, or William Hazlitt. An essay on the principle of human action. So D is the right answer. This is written by William Hazlitt. This work was selected by the scholars as being culturally important and is also a part of knowledge based on civilization. Which of the following is false about Frederick Douglass? Which of the following is not true about Frederick Douglass? Douglas' autobiography belongs to the tradition of fugitive slave trade popular in the North before Civil War. He provides a first person account of his life spent in slavery. He was famous as an orator dedicated to black liberation movement, and he wrote up from slavery. So D is the right answer. D is the right answer. You need to tell me which is false. So he is not the writer of this work, Up from Slavery. Frederick Douglass was an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, as well as a writer, and he worked tirelessly for the emancipation of the blacks during the time of war. He also recruited African American people to fight in US Army, including two of his own sons. After escaping the slavery in Maryland, he became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York. So D becomes the right answer. Identify the plays originally written by Vijay Tendulkar from the following: The Cyclist of the Fifth Woman, Scandal of Fairyland, The Vultures and Encounter of Umbaguland. Then you have Shakharam Binder, Fire and the Rain. So C is the right answer here. The Fire and the Rain is a play written by Girish Karnad based on the myth of Vyakri, while Sakharam Binder is a play by Vijay Tendulkar written in Marathi. The Cyclist, His Fifth Woman, The Vultures of Encounter in Umagland are written by Vijay Tendulkar as well. So C becomes the right answer. Which of the following two plays were written by W.B. Yeats? Irish Revival is something that is associated with Yeats. The Land of Heart's Desire, Time and the Conways, The Silver Tessie, The Countess Kathleen, The Plough and the Stars. Plays by W.B. Yeats. Interesting as well as an important question. So B is the right answer. B is the right answer. The Hand of Heart's Desire as well as The Countess Kathleen. So, The Land of Heart's Desire is a play by Irish poet dramatist W.B. Yeats, while Silver Tessie is a 4-act expressionist play about the First World War that is written by Zeno Casey. The Countess Kathleen is also a verse drama written by Yeats in blank verse, while The Plough and the Stars is a 4-act work again written by Zeno Casey. So, B becomes the right answer. Arrange these works in the chronological order. These are the anthologies of poetry written by Naseem Ezekiel. The exact name: Latter-day Sams, 60 Poems, The Unfinished Man, A Time to Change. Let me tell you the right answer. B is the right answer. These are the anthologies written by Naseem Ezekiel. First, we have A Time to Change in 1952, 60 Poems 1953, Unfinished Man 1960, The Exact Name 1965, Latter-day Sams 1982. These are the important anthologies of poetry written by Naseem Ezekiel. Coleridge's work Kubla Khan remains a fragment because he was called by Wordsworth, who was working in Purluk at that time. Dorothy Wordsworth was upset over their love affair. He was interrupted by a caller, a person on business from Purluk, and he ran out of his stock of opium. So we all know Kubla Khan is a work written by Coleridge after he had a good dose of opium. He was drowsing, he was sleeping. Opium is a drug, and he was sleeping. He consumed it and then wrote this magnificent work called as Kubla Khan, who is another important writer who was taking opium and writing the works. So we have another poet who is writing Confessions of an English Opium Eater. Can you tell me who has written this? So comment down below. C is the right answer. So Kubla Khan is a poem written by Coleridge that was composed in 1797 and published in 1816. It is said that Coleridge's work remain a fragment because it was broken. His thoughts were broken when a caller who was on a business from Purlock came and reminded him about something. So the track of thoughts was broken and Kubla Khan remained only a fragment, right? And with this, we are done with today's questions. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys, in fact, loved it. I'll see you with other sets of question. Thank you, enjoy, and I hope you will comment the question that I have already asked you. Enjoy and keep studying and smiling. Bye bye.